Hi, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Emma.
And we're interns from the UWA Marshall Center. So we'd like to ask, do you know anything about frogs? Did you know that in Noongar language that frog is called kuya?
Do you like frogs or do they make you squeamish? Well, in today's Thirsty Frog activity, we'll be learning all about frogs.
So let's go over what we need. First, we'll need 2 eggs, 1 cup of vinegar, 2 see-through glasses, fruit dye, we're using green here but use any color you have, 1 teaspoon, some newspaper to cover our bench top, and of course, our 2 worksheets.
In our experiment, the 2 eggs will represent a frog and a mammal. Remember, frogs are amphibians. They're cold-blooded animals without scales. And mammals are warm-blooded animals that feed their babies milk, like your cat, dog, or even us humans.
Before we can start this experiment, we have to prepare some things. We advise adult supervision for this part. First, put an egg into a jar of vinegar and let it sit for 24 hours. This will be our frog. After 24 hours, these eggs will be fragile, so be careful handling them. Next, boil an egg, leaving the shell on. This will represent our mammal.
Now that that's ready, we can begin our experiment. Take your vinegar egg out of the vinegar. This will be very fragile, so be careful with it. At the sink, you can wash and gently rub off any of the remaining shell.
This is our vinegar egg with the shell rubbed off. Now I want you to gently feel the egg, and can you imagine how the frog skin feels? Maybe soft, maybe firm. Can you write it down in the worksheet? Now fill 2 glasses with half a cup of water. Next, you will put 1 teaspoon of green dye into each cup. You can use any color dye you want. Now we are going to put each egg into the cup of water and wait for 30 minutes. Be gentle with it.
Now that it's been 30 minutes, let's take out our eggs and see what has happened. Here's our mammal egg. Can you see how the dye hasn't really gone into the egg? Now let's have a look at our vinegar egg. Can you see how the dye has gone all the way into the egg? Have a look at that difference.
Now let's talk about what we just did and why we do it. So actually frogs can breathe and drink water in a different way that humans do. Write down what you think happens. They have a special drinking patch underneath their stomach and thighs that allows water to be absorbed into the skin. This is because their skin is so thin. It is so thin that it allows water but not dirt into the skin. We call this semi-permeable.
There is a special process that lets water into the frog. When something takes up a crowded space, some of the stuff will move to a less crowded space through a semi-permeable barrier until it's balanced. This is called osmosis. Let's give an example. There are 2 pools. One is super crowded with lots of swimmers, and the other barely has any swimmers in it. We would say that the super crowded pool has a high concentration of swimmers. Concentration is a word we use to describe the amount of something within something else, like the amount of swimmers in a pool. You wouldn't want to be stuck in a super crowded pool, right? So some of the swimmers will move from the super crowded pool to the less crowded pool until the number of people in each pool is eventually balanced. This is the same for frogs. The water bodies that frogs live in has a high concentration of water that moves into the frog that has a low concentration of water. Did you know that osmosis happens in our body and even in plants?
Now remember what I said about how frogs can breathe through their skin? This is because their thin moist skin acts as a giant lung and absorbs the air into the body. That's actually called cutaneous breathing. But for that to happen, the frogs must stay clean and wet. Because frogs breathe and drink through their skin, they are more affected by water pollution than any other animals. This is why they need a clean environment to live in. This is why you shouldn't touch a frog when you see them. They can absorb harmful chemicals from our hand because of our lotion, our sweat, our shampoo that we use, and this may actually harm them.
Water is a very big part of Noongar culture. The Noongar word bilia means river, but it also means the umbilical cord. Just like the umbilical cord provides life to a baby, a river also provides life to our environment.
This concludes our experiment that we've done. Now, hopefully, you'll learn more about frogs and how they drink and breathe.
Please fill out the rest of your worksheet. If you're interested in frogs and osmosis, we've provided some links for you to go and check.
Bye.